just out of Helene's reach. Ros had never understood. A loving husband, a busy family, a cherished home. Many would regard Helene's as an enviable life. Ros had instinctively withdrawn from Helene's unease, as if it had been contagious. Through the hospital window, Ros watched the summer rain ease, and a bar of soft yellow light unexpectedly open up on the horizon. Ros liked resting her eye on that point, where the city petered out south of Crystal Palace, and the chalk rose up to form the Downs of Kent on its way to the coast. Ros gathered up her bag to leave. Helene reached out for Ros's hand. "I was never going to let you go," she said. "I managed that at least." "Sorry, Mother," said Ros, confused. "I'll be back tomorrow. Same time." Helene held fast to her hand. "Thank you, dear Rosamond." Ros bent over and smoothed a strand of Helene's hair across her forehead before kissing her cheek, as her mother had done for her as a child. And then, so softly that Ros wasn't sure she had heard right, Helene added, "I was so proud of you, of your courage. You and me together, we came a long way." Later, in her flat, Ros thought of Helene on the cliffs, and was pleased that the memory had found its way into her mother's dreams. She liked the image of her as a woman who had taken life in both hands, even in her 60s, rather than as a fragile body battered by illness. This business of dying was disorganizing her thoughts. That evening she was trying to catch up with some work on a case, the papers spread over the dining table, when another memory interrupted her. The detail was vague, but she knew she was in the garden at home in London. She must have been about 8 or so, because she was carrying Jim, and he was wriggling to be put down. She remembered clearly the weight of him on her hip, as she tried to imitate how her mother held the plump baby. Helene was wearing a pretty smock dress, and in the sunshine the pale fabric stood out against the dark green foliage behind. Her face was unfamiliar, flushed and full with the weight of 2 pregnancies in almost as many years. Edward was sitting on Justin's lap. A blue tablecloth, a vase of flowers. Perhaps they were having lunch in the garden. Helene handed Justin a plate of food and was telling him something. Abruptly, Helene stopped talking and jumped to her feet. The colour drained from her face, and her eyes widened with panic. Justin put Edward on a chair and moved swiftly to put his arms around her. She began to sob and was clinging to him. Ros stumbled to comfort her mother, still carrying Jim, who was slipping from her grasp. She buried her face in the folds of her mother's dress, breathing in her sweet, soapy smell, feeling the bone of her hip and her mother's body shuddering. Jim broke free and dropped to the ground, howling. A plane was roaring overhead, low over the roofs. Justin was saying, "It's the Queen's birthday parade." The next moment, the nanny scooped up the boys and pulled Ros by the hand into the kitchen. Ros couldn't remember any other occasion when she had seen her mother cry, let alone with that kind of hysteria. Perhaps she had misremembered it. She would ask her in the morning. Early the next day, the telephone woke her. Helene had died peacefully in the night. The tears slid down Ros's cheeks as she dialed Jim's number in France. "She was on her own at the end?" Jim's voice was thick. Ros nodded silently. Part 1. Chapter 1. Helene unpinned her hat and laid it on the stone bench of the handsome Victorian shelter before leaning back against the rough wall, feeling the cool damp of the Guernsey granite through her cotton dress. After the heat of the town and the weight of her shopping bags, it was a relief to wait for the others here in the shade. She could hear the pigeons in the wooded hillside behind her, and, from the sea, the sound of waves on the headland. The green seawater lapped gently at the steps of the old curved pool, built into the rocks. It looked very inviting. She unbuttoned her shoes and unclipped her stockings,